Imagine this. You walk into a supermarket to grab a simple jar of peanut butter. Easy, right? But instead of a quick pick, you're met with a wall of 50 different brands, each boasting its own variations: crunchy, smooth, organic, low-fat, extra protein, and more. What should have been a 30-second task turns into a 20-minute mental marathon. And even after you finally choose, you leave the aisle, second-guessing yourself. Did I pick the best one? Now imagine this scenario playing out not just in grocery stores, but in nearly every aspect of your life. Every day we're bombarded with hundreds of decisions: what to eat, what to wear, which career path to take, whom to date. On the surface, having options feels like freedom. But here's the twist. Research shows that more choices don't lead to more happiness. In fact, they often leave us stressed, anxious, and regretful. This is the paradox psychologist Barry Schwartz explores in his groundbreaking book, The Paradox of Choice: Why More is Less. Schwartz reveals that an abundance of choices doesn't liberate us, it traps us. Instead of feeling empowered, we feel overwhelmed. Decisions become harder, and satisfaction becomes elusive. But why? Why does having more options make us feel worse, not better? In this documentary, we'll dive deep into the science of decision-making, uncover the illusion of freedom that endless choices create, and explore the psychological toll of living in a world where every decision feels like a high-stakes gamble. Buckle up. It's time to rethink what it truly means to choose. Excessive choices, the societal consequences, and most importantly, how we can overcome this paradox in our daily lives. To understand why having more choices can be overwhelming, we need to look at how the brain processes decisions. Our brain relies on two systems: System 1, which is fast, intuitive thinking, and System 2, which is slow, analytical thinking. When faced with simple decisions, our brain mostly uses System 1, making choices effortlessly. But when options increase in complexity, System 2 kicks in, requiring more cognitive effort. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, gets overwhelmed when too many variables are introduced. Instead of feeling empowered by choices, we experience cognitive overload. Studies show that when people are given too many options, their ability to make confident and satisfying decisions declines. The mental energy required to weigh all possibilities leads to stress and dissatisfaction. Every choice we make consumes a small amount of mental energy. The more decisions we make throughout the day, the harder it becomes to make good ones. This phenomenon is known as decision fatigue. As we exhaust our cognitive resources, we either start making impulsive decisions or avoid making choices altogether. A famous study conducted on parole judges found that as the day progressed, they became less likely to grant parole. In the morning, prisoners had a 65% chance of getting parole, but by the end of the day, the rate dropped to nearly 0%. This happened because the judges, overwhelmed by decision fatigue, defaulted to the safest option: denying parole. Now apply this to everyday life. After a long day of work, deciding what to cook for dinner or what movie to watch feels exhausting. This is why people often opt for pre-decided choices, like eating the same meals repeatedly or watching whatever Netflix recommends. One of the most famous studies on choice overload was conducted by Sheena Iyengar at Columbia University. In an experiment at a grocery store, researchers set up two tasting booths. One had 24 different types of jam, while the other had only 6 varieties. While more people were drawn to the larger selection, when it came to purchasing, those who visited the smaller selection were 10 times more likely to buy. This experiment revealed a paradox. People are attracted to more choices, but they struggle to make decisions when faced with too many options. The study highlighted how limiting choices can increase satisfaction and make decision-making easier. When faced with excessive choices, people often experience decision paralysis, anxiety, and regret, ultimately leading to a diminished sense of well-being. The societal consequences of this paradox are profound, as it affects everything from consumer behavior to mental health. However, by understanding the science behind decision-making and implementing strategies to simplify our choices, we can reclaim our mental energy and find greater satisfaction in the decisions we make and the consequences of our decisions. This immense responsibility can lead to what Sartre called Existential angst, a deep-seated anxiety that arises from the weight of our freedom. Similarly, Søren Kierkegaard, another existential philosopher, described the dizziness of freedom, where the sheer number of possibilities can paralyze us, making it difficult to commit to any one path. This paralysis by analysis is not just a philosophical concept, it manifests in our everyday lives. For instance, consider online shopping. With thousands of products at our fingertips, we spend hours comparing reviews, features, and prices, only to abandon our carts or feel regret after purchasing. The same phenomenon occurs with streaming services like Netflix or Spotify, where endless options often result in endless scrolling rather than actually enjoying content. Dating apps like Tinder present an endless pool of potential matches, making it difficult for people to commit to one person due to the fear of missing out on a better option. Even career choices, with more paths available than ever before, can lead to career anxiety and job hopping as people struggle to settle on a direction. In modern society, we are taught that freedom equals having more choices. The more options we have, the more control we have over our lives, and the better off we should be. But paradoxically, an excess of choices doesn't always liberate us. Instead, it can create a psychological burden, leading to self-doubt, anxiety, and even existential dread. Think about it. Imagine a person who has the ability to live in any country, choose any career path, date anyone, and adopt any lifestyle. At first, this level of freedom sounds exhilarating, but soon the reality sets in. How do they decide which path will make them the happiest? What if they make the wrong choice? This is where the illusion of freedom starts to feel like a trap. To understand this dilemma, let's turn to existential philosophy, where thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Søren Kierkegaard deeply explored the anxiety that comes with too much freedom. Sartre, a leading existentialist philosopher, introduced the concept of radical freedom. He argued that humans are condemned to be free, meaning that we are responsible for shaping our own lives. There is no predetermined purpose. We must create our own meaning. But with this absolute freedom comes a heavy burden. Every choice defines who we are, and since there is no external force guiding us, we are fully responsible for the consequences of our decisions. This immense responsibility can lead to what Sartre called existential angst, a deep-seated anxiety that arises from the weight of our freedom. Similarly, Kierkegaard described the dizziness of freedom, where the sheer number of possibilities can paralyze us, making it difficult to commit to any one path. This paralysis by analysis is not just a philosophical concept. It manifests in our everyday lives, shaping how we navigate the overwhelming abundance of choices in the modern world, consequences of our decisions. This phenomenon, often referred to as paralysis by analysis, occurs when individuals become so overwhelmed by the sheer number of possibilities that they struggle to make a decision. This can lead to procrastination, stress, and dissatisfaction. For example, consider online shopping. With thousands of products available, people spend hours comparing reviews, features, and prices, only to abandon their carts or feel regret after purchasing. The same happens with streaming services. Endless options often result in people endlessly scrolling instead of actually watching something. Real-life examples of choice overload are everywhere. In online shopping, too many product choices lead to frustration and hesitation. Websites like Amazon offer millions of products, making it hard to finalize a purchase. Streaming services like Netflix and Spotify boast vast content libraries, yet many users spend more time browsing than consuming content. Dating apps like Tinder present an endless pool of potential matches, making it difficult for people to commit to one person due to the fear of missing out on a better option. Even career choices, with more paths available than ever before, leave people struggling to choose a direction, leading to career anxiety and job hopping. In modern society, we are taught that freedom equals having more choices. The more options we have, the more control we have over our lives, and the better off we should be, right? But paradoxically, an excess of choices doesn't always liberate us. Instead, it can create a psychological burden, leading to self-doubt, anxiety, and even existential dread. Think about it. Imagine a person who has the ability to live in any country, choose any career path, date anyone, and adopt any lifestyle. At first, this level of freedom sounds exhilarating, but soon the reality sets in. How do they decide which path will make them the happiest? What if they make the wrong choice? This is where the illusion of freedom starts to feel like a trap. To understand this dilemma, let's turn to existential philosophy, where thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Søren Kierkegaard deeply explored the anxiety that comes with too much freedom. Sartre, a leading existentialist philosopher, introduced the concept of radical freedom. He argued that humans are condemned to be free, meaning that we are responsible for shaping our own lives. There is no predetermined purpose. We must create our own meaning. But with this absolute freedom comes a heavy burden. Every choice defines who we are, and since there is no external force guiding us, we are fully responsible for the consequences of our decisions. This immense responsibility can lead to what Sartre called existential angst, a deep-seated anxiety that arises from the weight of our freedom. Similarly, Kierkegaard described the dizziness of freedom, where the sheer number of possibilities can paralyze us, making it difficult to commit to any one path. This paralysis by analysis is not just a philosophical concept. It manifests in our everyday lives, shaping how we navigate the overwhelming abundance of choices in the modern world. When it comes to decision-making, time is often our greatest ally, or our worst enemy. For smaller decisions like choosing what to eat or what to wear, giving yourself just 10 seconds can prevent overthinking. For bigger decisions, such as buying a product or planning a trip, set a 24-hour deadline. This approach prevents paralysis by analysis and forces you to trust your instincts instead of endlessly overanalyzing. But beyond limiting choices, we must also learn to prioritize the decisions that truly impact our happiness. The truth is, not every decision we make is equally important. Most people waste their mental energy worrying about trivial choices, like which coffee brand to buy, while ignoring the major choices that shape their lives. The 80-20 rule states that 80% of our happiness comes from just 20% of our choices. That means the majority of decisions we stress over don't actually affect our long-term well-being. Instead of obsessing over which TV show to watch or which phone to buy, we should focus on decisions that impact our health, relationships, and personal growth. A simple rule of thumb is to ask yourself, will this decision matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, don't waste mental energy overthinking it. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with decision-making is FOMO, the fear of better options. This constant worry that there's always a better choice leads to dissatisfaction, anxiety, and regret. The best way to overcome FOMO is by practicing gratitude and contentment. Instead of focusing on what we could have, we should focus on what we already have. Studies show that people who regularly practice gratitude experience higher life satisfaction, reduced stress, and greater confidence in their decisions. By shifting our mindset from scarcity to appreciation, we can eliminate regret and embrace our choices with peace of mind. At the heart of Barry Schwartz's research is a simple but profound truth. More choices don't make us freer, they make us more anxious. The key to happiness is not unlimited freedom, but rather the ability to choose with confidence and move forward without regret. By limiting choices, setting boundaries, and practicing gratitude, we can make better decisions, experience less stress, and live a more fulfilling life. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a decision, take a step back and ask yourself, is this choice truly worth my mental energy? If not, simplify it, make your decision, and move on. Because sometimes the best choice isn't to search for the perfect option, it's to choose and embrace the path forward. While governments and institutions struggle to design systems that simplify choices without stripping away autonomy, the paradox of choice is not just a personal dilemma, it's a societal one. It affects how we shop, how we work, how we love, and even how we define ourselves. But as we've seen throughout this documentary, there is a way to navigate this overwhelming landscape of options. By understanding the science, philosophy, and psychology behind decision-making, we can reclaim control over our lives. We've learned that simplifying choices, setting boundaries, and prioritizing what truly matters can help us make better decisions with less stress. We've seen how practicing gratitude and contentment can combat the fear of missing out, allowing us to embrace our choices with confidence. And we've discovered that sometimes the key to happiness isn't having endless options. It's having the clarity and courage to choose and move forward. As we conclude, let's reflect on the central question. Does more choice really mean more freedom? The answer, as Barry Schwartz and countless studies have shown, is no. True freedom lies not in the abundance of options, but in the ability to make meaningful decisions without being paralyzed by doubt or regret. It's about finding balance between having enough choices to feel empowered and not so many that we feel overwhelmed. So the next time you're faced with a decision, big or small, remember this: perfection is not the goal. What matters is making a choice that aligns with your values, your goals, and your well-being. And once you've made that choice, let go of the what-ifs. Embrace the path you've chosen and trust that it's enough. Because in a world filled with endless possibilities, sometimes the most liberating thing we can do is simply to choose. Throughout this documentary, we've explored a fascinating paradox, one that affects all of us, yet often goes unnoticed. We live in a world where choices are abundant. From the food we eat to the careers we pursue, from the products we buy to the relationships we build, everything is filled with options. On the surface, this seems like a good thing. After all, isn't choice the very definition of freedom? But as Barry Schwartz revealed, more choices don't always lead to more happiness. In fact, they often lead to more stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. We started by understanding the science behind choices, learning how our brains struggle with cognitive overload when faced with too many options. We explored how decision fatigue drains our mental energy, making even the simplest decisions feel exhausting. Psychological research, such as Sheena Iyengar's famous JAM experiment, confirmed that people actually feel happier and more satisfied when they have fewer choices. Then we dove into the philosophical illusion of freedom, questioning whether having more options really makes us free, or if it actually traps us in indecision and self-doubt. Existential thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Soren Kierkegaard warned about the anxiety that comes with too much freedom. When everything is possible, nothing feels certain. Instead of enjoying life, we are left questioning our every decision. We also examined the psychological consequences of excessive choices, including overthinking, stress, and the fear of better options, FOMO. The more options we have, the more we second-guess ourselves, leading to a never-ending cycle of doubt and regret. Social media and consumer culture have amplified this problem, constantly exposing us to the illusion that there's always something better out there, whether it's a better job, a better relationship, or a better version of ourselves. On a larger scale, we saw how society itself is shaped by choice overload. Corporations use choice architecture to manipulate our decisions, offering overwhelming selections while subtly guiding us toward the most profitable ones. The rise of subscription-based models like Netflix and Spotify is a response to this very problem, curating experiences to save us from the stress of choosing. Even in dating, endless swiping creates the illusion of unlimited possibilities, but often leaves people feeling disconnected and dissatisfied. But most importantly, we learned how to overcome the paradox of choice. Barry Schwartz's solution is simple yet powerful: satisficing over maximizing. Instead of endlessly searching for the perfect option, we should embrace the good enough choice and move forward with confidence. By limiting unnecessary decisions, setting time constraints, and practicing gratitude, we can escape the cycle of choice overload and experience greater satisfaction in life. Now, I want to leave you with a question. Do you feel overwhelmed by choices in your life? Have you ever struggled with decision paralysis or FOMO? If so, how do you deal with it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might find it helpful. Because sometimes the secret to happiness isn't having more choices. It's knowing when to let go and move forward.